Should Keaton Mitchell be the Ravens running back one after the incredible display he's put on so far this season? We talk about that and so much more coming up next here on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another episode of Locked On Ravens, we're your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, and I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes over in video form on YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. We are a 5-day-a-week Ravens show, so Ravens news, analysis, updates coming to you in video form, audio form, wherever you get those shows. So be sure to subscribe, follow along there. And if we're part of your Spotify Wrapped, I know that's coming out. It's all over Twitter, all over Instagram. You can put that out on Twitter, tag me in it, tag the show, and I'll be sure to retweet that. I appreciate all the support here. But today we have a very special guest on a Thursday. Usually be crossover Thursday, getting ready for the next week's game. But the Ravens do not have a game this week as they are in the midst of their rest and relaxation of the bye weeks. Here to talk about the Ravens with me is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Super Bowl champion, Qadry Ismail. The Ravens go into the bye at 9-3. They get the win over the Chargers in week 12. Wasn't necessarily the prettiest game offensively outside of the rushing, but defensively they had it turned all the way up all game, 4 turnovers. And it puts them in a good spot going into a final stretch for them. Those next 5 games to end the year, they're going to be a gauntlet, really tough ones.
They're going to be. Obviously, you wouldn't want it any other way. You want to kind of test yourself. Clearly, you're at 9-3, and the games that you blew, you should have won. So it wasn't like you got beat. And I think the Ravens have beaten teams along the way. It wasn't like they got lucky with other games that they've won. They've beaten some really good defenses. They've played against some high potent offenses. They kept them all in check. Special teams wise, they've had their gaps in the losses, but they've been steady in the wins. Kind of Justin Tucker is not quite the Justin that we're used to, but that doesn't mean that he's, no less dangerous of a contributor to this team's wins. But this is what you want. You don't want games where it's going to be cakewalks, because what will happen is you get complacent. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the playoffs come, you think that, the other teams, they've been gearing up. They're seasoned and ready. And then next thing you know, you look back and you're like, wait a minute, we're on the sideline watching them go ahead to whatever the next round is. And you're on the outside looking in. So good that you're 9-3. Good that you've had the losses that you've had, the wins that you've had. And now let's put yourself in a position where it's going to help you with these tougher games to kind of season you, if you will, for the playoffs.
And I know we've talked about it before, but the Ravens, and honestly any team, if you win early, it puts you in less of a stressful situation late. Now, the way the AFC, the top of it, has gone this year, Baltimore 9-3, Kansas City, Jacksonville, Miami, they're all at 8-3 and could jump the Ravens in the standings based off a conference record if they win on Sunday, because Baltimore doesn't have a game. It's going to come down to the wire, but at least we're not going to be talking about, is this Ravens team in danger of missing the playoffs? It'd take a historic collapse for that to happen. So hopefully nothing of the sort. But I think the bye did come at a perfect time for them. They're clearly, and again, we've talked about it. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. No one's 100% healthy right now, not even close. But to get those little things, those little injuries and little bumps and bruises as healed as you can get them at this point. Teams that have been playing since week 6, they have their bye. Week 7, they have their bye. I'd rather have it late than early. I know Beckham talked a bit about it as well. But I think a key aspect of the Ravens right now, Q, is in the running game. They ran for 197 yards against the Chargers in week 12. Keaton Mitchell just looks electric every time he touches the ball, and it's raised the question about, where should he be in this running back pecking order? I don't think it's going to be Keaton Mitchell's backfield or anything like that, but we did see it was a 9-8 split Keaton Mitchell with 9, Gus Edwards with 8. Do you think that moving forward, Keaton Mitchell should have that quote-unquote running back 1 tag with Gus Edwards being the 2? But I think if anything, it'd be more of a committee approach with maybe Keaton getting 1 or 2 more carries than Gus. But if that's the case, he would be the Ravens' top running back.
The Keaton Mitchell thing, let me say it this way. It is a great problem to have. You know that you miss out on J.K. Dobbins, his explosiveness, his ability to make guys miss. And obviously we've seen that, he can make the big play. It is one of those things where Keaton came along at the right time. He was ready. They were ready to have him, and off you go. So when I look at Keaton Mitchell, I think what they've done, they brought him along in a good way. What I mean by that is that it's not that the coaches don't trust you. Make me believe in you more. You're the one that controls your destiny. You're the one that controls how many carries we give you, how many opportunities to play you. So we as pundits can sit back, oh, yeah, it's easy, we're just going to have him. But we don't know. Clearly, we know enough that his work ethic is there, and he's dependable. Clearly, he knows his assignments, because it's not like he's sitting there and like, oh, he's lost. I mean, he's playing with confidence. But that was built up over time, is my point. And as much as, from a running back aspect of things, it's easy for a coach to look on the side and be like, yeah, you're not ready. You're not going in. You're not costing me my job. But if you are ready and you are able to do those things, to block, to run, to line up, to know what your assignment is, then go ahead there, get him in there and spell him. And I think that's, again, it's a good problem to have. I'm not necessarily just yet saying, oh, he should be running back number 1. I like him as that home run threat. Let him just be loose. Let him just, a home run threat. I ain't trying to go up there and, just wear you out. I'm trying to have you like, wear out the defense. Let, Gus do some hardcore wearing out the defense. But then at the same time, Justice Hill, let him, I know, we know homeboy had trouble holding on to the football. That's why we're in this situation to begin with when it comes to the running back room. Keaton probably wouldn't have got much of a chance if it was a scenario where Justice Hill was just dominating. I like home run threat. And we talk about that final stretch of the season, and we talk about in the playoffs, that homeboy has some fresh legs and be a home run threat. That's the secret sauce. So I think they have a good combination going. Give him a workload, but maybe second half when the defense is a little bit more tired, then kind of like allow him to run and feast.
Well, I think even if, depending on what your view is of Mitchell and whether he should or shouldn't be the running back 1, he's put himself in position at least to be in the conversation for that and to have that opportunity, because you're right, he's a home run hitter. But I think what surprised people more about him is coming out of college, he was known as that, right? The speedster, the home run threat. For him, he's worked really well off of contact. Like after first contact, he's hitting the hole hard. And I think the thing in the preseason was, well, he's trying to get to the outside. Can he do that on a consistent basis and use his speed to get away from NFL speed defenders? And the answer has been yes, he's been that good. But with Gus, I think the whole running back room is perfectly complements each other. So I think Keaton has put himself in that position to, again, be in the conversation for Baltimore's running back 1 job. And again, it's not a typical, hey, you know what, Saquon Barkley for the Giants, he gets 30 carries a game and no one else sniffs 5. It'd be a committee regardless. But this is not me saying Gus hasn't done anything this season. Gus has been great for him. And you're right, it's a good problem to have, because regardless of how it shakes out, whether it's Keaton at running back 1, and again, I use the running back 1 term as like, they're going to split carries. Like that's what's going to happen, because both those guys have earned it. But to me, the other part of it is you talked about, well, Mitchell hasn't played an entire football season yet. He was injured to start the season, came back, got injured again, came back. He has those fresh legs. And I think, again, for a team where we can see Gus has carried a lot of load this year, Justice has done his thing too, it's really nice for Baltimore to have a guy who is not only playing really well, but doesn't have a full workload of a season under his belt right now.
And see, this is the beauty of it all too, because what defenses have to account for, what people don't realize, well, we realize, I keep saying people, well, we realize that there's the Lamar Jackson factor. Anytime Lamar Jackson, like if you're going to go ahead and read it, there was a particular play, and I know our friend Cole Jackson, he actually put it up on X, and he was like, man, look at how Keaton, rides the hole. He's very smooth through it, and it allows him to get into the second level with speed. But then as you continue to, just kind of look at the play, it was a spread formation, so everybody spread out, and the lineman did an amazing job. Well, the guy that would technically have tackled Keaton, you got to look at number 8, because homeboy was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go over this way because number 8's going over this way. So it's like as 8 moves, I move, and then that's just one less guy I got to worry about if I'm Keaton. Then you add on to what you just said, his fresh legs, his ability to be that home run threat and all those things. My God, man. I mean, that's an advantage. You got 2 home run threats in the backfield, and that is what you want. But then at the same time, you're going to have a short yardage situation. Well, you want to have Gus Edwards in there and, plowing it through. You might have a situation where you might have protection, or you might be a scenario where you're going to be given it if you're Lamar Jackson. And sure, Justice Hill has proven. He's proven, although Khalil Mack kind of humbles everybody. I mean, it was a tough one, but he's proven that, he can also help out in pass pro. And I think that's something where it's an advantage. But if he's going to get the rock, I think now he's realizing, I can't, my carries and my days are limited. I need to make the best of it. So I think there's some, again, good things that are happening all the way around in this running back room and the running back situation and in the way in which Todd Monken wants to use them.
We've come a long way from the last couple of weeks, from the Derrick Henrys and the Josh Jacobs, and the answer was Keaton Mitchell the whole time. He was right in front of us. He was right there. So there were concerns about that running back room, how it was going to fare, but he has injected new life into that unit, and again, has put himself in position to be a really big part of the Ravens offense moving forward, as he should be, because he literally right now, among all running backs with 25-plus carries, is second in the league in yards per attempt at 9.3. So really, really good Keaton Mitchell snaps. And coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about what we've seen from this Ravens team so far this year as they're in the middle of their bye week. So be sure to stay tuned. Lots to get to on the show. First, this episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is awesome. Look no further than PrizePicks for daily fantasy sports. And PrizePicks is the most fun so many have had, up to 25 times the money this football season. All you have to do is select 2 or more players, pick more or less in their projected stats, and place your entry. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections too across football and basketball from the Specials League created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports leagues. So for example, if you're a big LeBron James fan, you can pick LeBron James and Travis Kelce, the 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made versus receptions. And if you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from one of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. PrizePicks even offers a great reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. We're back, our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostraker, Qadry Ismail talking football, talking Ravens with you here. And Q, again, 9-3. If I had told you that, if we were doing a preview episode right before the season started, I said, Q, the Ravens will be 9-3 heading into their bye week. How would you have taken that news? And now you know it's reality, so how would you have taken it back then?
I would have been ecstatic. I would have said, after looking at training camp, I would have said, yeah, this is about right. I would have not believed the losses the way they happened. Like Pittsburgh, I was like, oh, we're going to whoop up on them just because, any Ravens fan, they're like, yo, bro, we don't like y'all. Y'all don't like us. We don't like you. We're going to beat you. But they get the bragging rights in that regard and just eats away at me that last freaking second field goal. And mother of pearl, like all of a sudden your boy gets his shoulder and then he's going to go on IR? Then he's going to miss the season? Like, what the brick? So those two losses get me. Gardner Minshew, okay, I could see us early in the year, having some kind of weird, letdown. But I thought like a Seattle-ish type of a team. I didn't really know who the Lions were going to be, but then when I saw them, I was like, ooh, they're going to be a challenge. Whooped up on them. Like, get out of here. I also thought from a bigger picture standpoint, Joe Burrow was going to be more of a problem. And clearly, the breakdown of his injuries with, the second game, his wrist, but the first game, his calf, I was like, oh, okay. I honestly thought one of those losses would have been either, like I said, a Seattle or a Lions, and then maybe a Cincinnati. But I am happy in this regards because it shows the resolve and the cool factor of this team. Like, think about it, Kevin. Again, San Diego, Los Angeles, like they can play and they got a stud quarterback. Seattle, stud, quarterback from the previous year, and obviously they had a strong defense. The Lions, are like the darling of the NFL. Oh, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, and rightly so. Going into the game, I mean, defensively, they were awesome. So, Joe Burrow, Burrow has been, killing it as far as getting into the playoffs and all those things. So you group all that together, and that's where, like, this 9-3 record, like, I'm smiling like, man, I will take those victories, and I'm appreciative. If this sounds weird, but I'm appreciative of the losses just because I know the way in which, it's hard to win in this league. But when you don't get beat and you're beating teams, hallelujah.
Yeah, again, you'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day of the week. And obviously some of the Ravens' wins have been very pretty themselves. But that Chargers game came down to the last. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney played hero ball in that one with his multiple turnovers, forced the defense. Arthur Millette at the end, Mike McDonald dropping Michael Pierce into coverage, just the chef's kiss, and just shows everything that he's done. But before we talk about Mike in the defense, I want to talk about Todd Monken in the offense a little bit, Q, because it's been inconsistent all season. We've seen them at their peak, and we know what they can do at their peak. You mentioned Seattle, you mentioned Detroit. But then they have games where either they don't run the ball as much as they should. I mean, the Chargers defense was horrendous running or rush defense wise. And I think, again, they ran, but a lot of it came at the end of the game when they were trying to run the clock out. And there have been some issues, I think, for some people, how they've used Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson with the deep ball and pushing the ball down the field. But I want to get your opinion because I feel like if you spread everybody out, Mark Andrews obviously not being there hurts things. But if you have 4 wide, let's say, and a running back in the shotgun with Lamar, I just feel like, again, you're spreading out the entire defense. They run the ball so well. And you have to, at that point, decide who you're going to cover one-on-one. And every time I saw them do it against the Chargers, I'm just like, how are they going to defend this with the threat of Lamar, the threat of the running back, the threat of the short game? If the defense blitzes, you can obviously get the ball out on a screen and kind of combat that. I just feel like the best way the Ravens can do things is if they utilize the spread a little bit more and just spread guys out and force the defense to get stretched thin in that box. And with the way they've been running it, this is a top 10 offense. The eye test might not tell you, but it's a top 10 offense, both rushing and passing. I think they can utilize it a little better. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, and I think from what you're saying, as far as spreading out everybody, Isaiah Likely is a better – you can use him better, I think, spreading him out compared to having him in the box and, trying to be a Mark Andrews-esque type of a player. Spreading out guys gives him a chance to flourish and do his thing. That adds another element to it all. I do love the way in which Odell Beckham is in the slot. I love how he continually gets open. I am befuddled. If we talk about it, and just be real about it, like that deep ball just needs to happen. And like I'm just like, I mean, what is this week? 12. It's going to be week 13. They get back on the field. It's going to be week 14, and we still talking about it. That's troubling because ultimately, like what wins games in the playoffs are big plays, and if teams know you're not really going to be able to go down the field, sure, the 12, 13 play drive, the sustaining drives are great, but there's something to be said about having that bullet right there that you could just put into your gun at any moment in time, and bam, big play happened, bam, big score happens. And I think, Lamar will be the first to tell you, like, that's something that, it has to connect. They had him in the slot, did a little stutter go. He beat the defender, and, the ball's overthrown. It's that I think, yes, spread them out, but let's get that going.
Yeah, they've shown what they can do, again, when they're hitting on all cylinders. And I think, again, you don't want them to peak in early November. You want them to, again, continually to gradually get better and better, and you want to peak in February, hopefully at the Super Bowl. But there have been some concerns with the offensive line. We'll talk about that in the final part of the show. But I do want to give Mike Macdonald his flowers, because what a year it's been for that defense. They are just balling out. I know, again, top pass defense in the league. Rushing-wise, the stats won't tell you it's been amazing, but I think that's more a product of them getting gashed a couple games and not the full sample size. I think they've been a bit more consistent over the full season, and it's just been a couple of bad games. But regardless, Mike Macdonald is using his aggressiveness in, I think, a very calculated way. He is an aggressive coordinator, but it's not the live by the blitz, die by the blitz Ravens fans got so used to in that Don Martindale era. He's using his guys well. And I just go back, Q, to when he was first hired, and Patrick Queen took to Twitter, or I guess X now was Twitter at the time, and was so ecstatic about it. He gushed about him. That was Patrick Queen's guy. He goes over for a year at Michigan, kind of finds his way on his own without the Ravens organization, comes back and has settled in. And I think, look, we can talk about it, whether it's going to be with the Ravens or somewhere else, but I think he's a head coaching candidate. And I think this year, with the way this defense is playing, they're going to be in the conversation, maybe not quite up to that level of those 2000 Ravens, which I know you're very familiar with, Q, but they're on pace to be one of the best defenses in this team's history.
Yeah, no question. His ability to cook has been just outstanding. His ability to use his personnel. The thing is that I know I'm going to be used. I know I'm going to be ready. Millette, like, as it was mentioned in the presser with Mike Macdonald, he's like, yeah, his rotation, just the way the game played out, he wasn't able to get in there. However, when he did get in there, it was the most critical of plays. And I loved it. I loved how, he trusted, big Mike Pierce to, like, drop back into coverage. Like, what? But that's an unpredictable thing against a franchise quarterback that has passed the ball extremely well. So therefore, he's seen all the different coverages, and the way he had to his left that strong side setup. So he has to his left that strong side setup, and he's like, all right, cool. I got my receivers out here. Who are the matchups that I can go up against? Ooh, I can see number 10 right there. He's going to be on my guy. Let's see what Keenan Allen, how that's all going to shape out. Oh, my guy came off the edge. Oh, I got to get rid of the football. That surprised him. Now, again, when you look at Mike Macdonald throughout the entire game, he's putting guys in position. It's not like you got to beat guys off the edge and hope and pray. It's a lot of the stunting action, and what they're doing some big time pick and roll basketball style and get to the quarterback. And I think that enthusiasm, that belief in getting to the quarterback or stopping the run, you got the long arm of the law, who is just, Captain Obvious here. He's going to be first team All-Pro. It'd be a shame if he isn't. And I mean, he's a lock. I think, his body of work is showing he's first team All-Pro. But Kyle Hamilton has been all over the field, and that 3-sack Gardner Minshew / tipping the ball against Deshaun Watson. Why did it come in those two losses? It irks the living beep out of me, but it did. However, it didn't deter him mentally to contribute in all the other wins as well. So, I mean, my goodness, man, it just. Let's talk about the two linebackers that have over 100 sacks apiece. Okay, like let's pause on that. That's called balling. That's called preparation. That's called putting you in position to make plays. That's allowing you to be a professional. And I am telling you how you can get better. And of course he has a good staff. I'm not tripping on that. But to your point, leader of men, doing it well.
Yeah, 100%. And when I think you're talking about off-season conversations, the one about McDonald and John Harbaugh, we will save that for a couple months down the line. But coming up, we will be talking about balancing the present and the future with this Ravens team. They're in a very unique situation right now. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty to talk about on Locked On Ravens. First, this episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by DoorDash. And I'm a big food guy, 100%. Sometimes when I'm watching a game, I want to go to get a snack or go to the refrigerator. There's nothing in there. So when the game goes to a timeout, it's time to order in with DoorDash. And you can do multiple different DoorDash orders when you order with DoorDash. It's maybe the game day package you want. So pizza, wings, sodas, burgers, or even just buns, DoorDash, and get it all delivered without missing the game. Or if you're a snacks guy, you can order chips, dips, nachos, everything you need to make your own nachos on DoorDash as well. So get 50% off of the $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app. Enter code LOCK23. Subject to change, terms apply. And all your favorite restaurants and stores are over on DoorDash and retail to grocery in the Baltimore area. There are a lot of great options. Sushi Hana for sushi, Underground Pizza for pizza. They're all in the app, so you can shop everything you need to get game day ready. One more time, 50% off of the $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app. Enter code LOCK23 for exchange, terms apply. One more time, don't forget to use code LOCK23, 50% off of the $10 value when your first order when you download the DoorDash app. Spend $15 or more, subject to exchange, terms apply. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot over on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's a better time to get in on the action. The app is awesome and super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that includes spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And there's no Ravens game this week, unfortunately, so unfortunately, there'll be no FanDuel props for the Ravens for Week 13, but the NFL, I'm sure there are going to be a ton of those as people who are Ravens fans should be watching the NFL. So the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, all those games, super important. You can go and make some bets over on there at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We are back rounding out Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with Qadry Ismail. Again, thank you so much for being here with us today and making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every day. Subscribe in audio form and video form, the whole 9 yards. And now we're going to enter a segment that this is Q's favorite. Not really. If you're new here, Q does not like talking about the offseason in the regular season. And Q's philosophy, I'll speak for you, Q. You can correct me if I'm wrong, is we're playing football right now. Offseason is for offseason. We're in playing football time, but there is an element of balancing the present and the future. And I think a big conversation, I talked about it yesterday on yesterday's show, is Ronnie Stanley and the offensive line and just where your concern level is with that. Because the reality is, look, they're not going to bench Ronnie. They're going to play him through his woes, if you want to call it that. He's done so much for the organization. Now, as John Harbaugh mentioned, is obviously you and I both know, as many know, has not been great for Ronnie Stanley this year as a whole. Has definitely struggled with some injuries here and there, and obviously the injury he suffered a couple of years ago. Just for the sake of saying it, his contract numbers, if you're talking about the future, his cap hit next year is $26 million. His dead cap hit is $17, so they're saved right around $8 or $9 million. It's a lot of dead money there. Plus, in 2025, you can save $20 million because his dead cap hit is only $6 with a cap hit of $26 million. But if you bench Ronnie, something weird happens. It's probably not going to bode well for what he's going to do in the future, but then it has the conversation of if Ronnie struggles for the rest of the season, do you draft a tackle early in the draft? What do you do? I'm not going to – you don't have to go into detail on what's going to happen in a few months, but as of right now, are you concerned about Ronnie Stanley not only for this season, but if it continues and they keep him on board for what it could be next year?
So, yes, you're right. I don't like it. I don't like this conversation. This is like, we're not genies. We just want to play the next game. But yes, he is having his struggles. He's not playing as well. And clearly from an injury standpoint, just his super fast twitch muscle fibers and his technique aren't lining up. And there are some teams that are big time taking advantage of him. You're seeing speed to power. You're seeing power to speed. You're seeing different stunts. You're seeing techniques, all that against him who, he was first team All-Pro for a reason. He was just dynamic as dynamic got. And it is frustrating and it's sad. And it's, the unfortunate part of football. It's, why I have my shirt on. It's why I'm in my facility as far as training, because I just feel and believe that guys shouldn't get hurt. And if they do, there's ways to aggressively get them back out there playing and, allow their body to do their thing. With that said, Ronnie got to figure out for this entire week, how can I use this week to help me get back and do what I know to do, to feel what I know I am capable of doing, and then develop a game plan moving forward from this week. I mean, that's the main thing. How do I move forward from this week to not allow it to have pundits like Qadry and Kevin sit back and talk about my cap hit and all the things. I want to earn all my money, but we'll see. This is a meritocracy. It's all about what have you done for me lately? And I think that he has a lot of football left. I think at the same time, the draft, from a draft perspective, from what the preliminary reports I'm hearing is that, it's a heavy tackle draft. Okay, great. But let's just get him through the bye week and hopefully he can get better.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's why it's kind of come at the perfect time for this Ravens team, especially for Ronnie. And John Harbaugh kind of talked about that in his media availability this week. But we can talk about a signing that's not an offseason one. Marcus Peters, familiar face in Baltimore, gets cut by the Raiders. And, has there been discourse this week about whether the Ravens should try to make a move for him or not? Now, when the Ravens did the Marcus Peters to Rock Ya-Sin, essentially it was Marcus going to the Raiders and Rock Ya-Sin coming into Baltimore, flip teams. I think the Ravens wanted to just fully embrace the physicality aspect of a defensive unit. We know that Marcus Peters is not the most physical player in the NFL, had some tackling issues, and in Las Vegas, it seems like it was the effort that really did him in. He wasn't giving full effort. He got benched in the Raiders last game. I personally don't think the Ravens need Marcus Peters right now. I mean, look, if it's some if he comes back on the practice squad just to have him back, I mean, fine. It's not a huge deal. But they're in a situation now where they have Brandon Stevens, who has stepped up. Even though Rock Ya-Sin hasn't panned out, Ronald Darby has played well. Obviously, they're going to get Marlon back, hopefully after the bye. This is the top-rated pass defense, and I don't want to say like Marcus would ruin all of that. I don't even think he gets significant snaps, if we're being honest, but I just think they put themselves in a position where we were talking about how big of a need corner was, and I just don't think Marcus at this point in his career is a big enough needle mover for the Ravens to necessarily go after that, unless it's, again, is a practice squad signing or in a minimal or non-existent role.
Yeah, it seems like we do get sentimental when, we have some guys that were Ravens that kind of, a little gritty, little edge to them. It definitely typifies what Baltimore is all about. I am with you. Why? Bring him in. Jalen Armour-Davis, Rock Ya-Sin when he does get in there and stuff. Darby, they all kind of had their role, if you will. I think they all are competing. I think confidence-wise, chemistry-wise, the frontline guys, there's a flow and a feel to it. How's that dynamic going to be as far as coming in with a strong personality that Marcus has? Is he going to feel like he is going to feel like he's an alpha, and I need to let y'all know. But would he embrace his role? That's something that, you got to look at and figure out, is that something that would be in play, So I think ultimately, no, I would be disappointed. I mean, if you do it, you're doing it, but I don't think it's a necessary thing that you need to do.
Yeah, and I don't want to have it come off as I'm saying, well, Marcus never did anything for the Ravens, and I don't like it. Like, Marcus is awesome. Like, he did a lot of good things in his time with the Ravens. He embraced the community, embraced the organization. But clearly it seemed like Marcus wanted to come back. It seemed more like a Ravens thing, and it felt like they wanted to, again, embrace the physicality. So I just don't think the timing's not right anymore right now. Yeah. It just seems like it's not in the cards for him, and that's fine because they've had guys step up, and that's just how it's gone this season. But the Ravens right now, they are a 9-3 football team. That's all I have for you here today, though, on the show. I appreciate you, of course, Q. For me, I think that Baltimore, they have an opportunity to make some noise. We're going to find out a lot about this team in the final 5 games of the year. You got the Rams. It's a gauntlet. You got the Jaguars, the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Steelers. We're going to learn a lot about them these next 5 weeks after the bye.
Yeah, we are. I think the Rams, we talk about, secondary, we're going to get challenged. Smart quarterback. Talk about Jacksonville. Jacksonville is like, hey, man, we feel like we up there with the upper echelon as well. So they're a very good coach team. Talk about Miami. Miami's Miami. Miami kind of, ride a roller coaster. But I think, the Miami game is a personal game in that you know what you should have done last year. You didn't get it done. And then, of course, Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. You want to just slap them in the face and let them know, hey, even though Canada ain't there no more, this ain't for you. Maybe y'all might see us in the playoffs. Maybe y'all might not. We don't care. We're about to whoop up on you.
Yeah, it's going to be really important for him. But again, the bye comes in an awesome time. They're able to rest and regroup ahead of those 5 games in the gauntlet. Again, Q, thank you for your time. And thank you for tuning in to Locked On Ravens today. Coming up tomorrow, we'll round out the week, more Ravens content. So be sure to stay tuned for that. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.